8 Forbidden World War II combat hacks so brutal they were banned after the war. World War II really pushed soldiers to the extreme edges of survival. In the mud, ruins, and frozen forests of Europe and the Pacific, a lot of troops invented improvised ways to fight. Techniques so brutal, unpredictable, or honestly, just horrific, that they were banned once the world tried to rebuild a sense of order. While militaries rarely admit these unofficial tricks even existed, historians, declassified reports, and post-war conventions reveal a hidden world of battlefield improvisation that horrified military tribunals. These aren't myths or Hollywood inventions, these were real hacks used by desperate troops, and all 8 were outlawed after World War II ended. Number 1. Modified trench knives with illegal sawtooth or barbed edges. World War I trench knives were already vicious, but World War II soldiers, especially in Pacific and commando units, sometimes altered them to increase damage. The 2 notorious modifications were sawtooth spines for tearing wounds, and barbed blades that caught in flesh and clothing. These modifications caused catastrophic injuries that field medics could barely treat. Why banned? Post-World War II. Geneva revisions and military codes explicitly prohibited knives designed to cause unnecessary suffering. Sawtooth combat blades and barbed stabbing weapons definitely fall under this category. So, improvised flamethrowers made from fuel canisters. Flamethrowers were honestly among World War II's most psychologically devastating weapons, but some units, especially in the Pacific, actually constructed these crude small-scale versions using things like pressurized fuel cans, rubber tubing, and ignition wicks. They weren't really effective like a real military flamethrower, but man, they were terrifying and super unpredictable. A lot of them exploded, injuring their users. So, why were they banned? Well, improvised incendiary weapons became restricted under post-war conventions because they just lacked control, caused indiscriminate burning, and violated limits on weapons designed to inflict severe suffering. Today, unauthorized flame weapons are illegal under both military and civilian law in most countries. Poison-tipped bullets and tainted shrapnel. So, even though these were illegal at the time, some World War II soldiers, and especially resistance fighters, would actually coat bullets or razor fragments with things like toxic plant extracts, animal poisons, industrial chemicals, or even, fecal matter just to cause infection. These were, honestly, desperate attempts to overcome limited ammunition or, to tilt the odds in a knife-edge ambush. And why are these things banned? Well, after World War II, international conventions reaffirmed that any intentionally poisoned munitions violate international law. The ban, by the way, covers biochemical agents, toxins, infectious materials, and basically any weapon designed to worsen wounds beyond just the ballistic impact. So, here's something you might not have heard about: bouncing barbed wire traps built from landmine parts. Behind retreating lines, some soldiers actually engineered these hybrid traps that combined things like tripwire, sharpened metal hooks or barbs, small explosive charges, and even suspended debris or weighted beams. The thing is, these traps didn't just wound people, they were designed to immobilize soldiers, leaving them totally vulnerable to follow-up attacks. Devices like these were actually pretty infamous in parts of Eastern Europe and the Pacific Islands. So, why were these things banned? Well, after the war, humanitarian law specifically prohibited booby traps disguised as innocent objects, or those designed to maim rather than just disable. The use of barbs and debris violated rules on perfusion weapons that cause extensive non-ballistic suffering. Sand-filled clubs and weighted nightsticks, close-quarters combat in ruined cities like Stalingrad, Ortona and Manila drove troops to create silent weapons from sand-packed socks, weighted clubs, short billy-style batons, and hard rubber tubes filled with scrap lead. These were easy to conceal and, honestly, devastating in ambushes. Their purpose was not to wound, it was to knock out or kill silently. So, why were these weapons banned? Well, After the war, new regulations came in that restricted weapons designed purely for blunt force incapacitation, especially those that didn't offer any real chance of non-lethal use. These days, modern codes actually ban things like blackjacks, saps, and weighted gloves for pretty much the same reasons. Number 6. Drag hooks used for close-quarters extraction. Some World War II commandos and partisan groups, actually shaped metal hooks to pull enemies out of hiding spots, yank hostile sentries off balance, or even retrieve weapons silently. While not widespread, archival evidence suggests these hooks were sometimes sharpened to cause fatal neck or shoulder injuries during nighttime infiltration. Why banned? After World War II, weapons intended to mutilate or drag enemy combatants in ways exceeding battlefield necessity were prohibited. Dragging implements fall under bans on cruel and inhumane treatment. Improvised body armor plates from stolen vehicles, in environments where ambushes were constant, like the deserts of North Africa, the jungles of the Pacific, or the mountains of Italy, soldiers would sometimes strip things like truck doors, aircraft fuselage panels, or even artillery shields and, well, they'd fashion makeshift chest or back plates to wear under their uniforms. Some also attached nails or jagged metal inside camouflage jackets, to injure attackers during close combat or grapples. Why banned? Well, while protective armor is legal, booby trap armor, clothing that's actually designed to wound attackers, is explicitly prohibited. The jagged mount plate trick was banned under rules preventing concealed cruelty devices. Number 8. The infamous glass fragment grenade improvisation. A terrifying, little-known hack involved adding glass shards inside improvised grenade casings, sometimes bottles wrapped in cloth with explosive filler. When detonated, the glass created dozens of non-detectable wound channels. Field hospitals couldn't locate or extract the tiny fragments. Infection, sepsis, and blindness were nearly guaranteed. Why banned? The Geneva Convention and subsequent protocols classified glass fragmentation as inhumane ammunition, illegal because it produces non-treatable injuries, the fragments do not show on X-ray, and, honestly, the intent is unnecessary suffering, not incapacitation. This prohibition is still enforced worldwide. Why these hacks terrified Allied and Axis commanders alike. While World War II is remembered for tanks, planes, code-breaking, and industrial firepower, these brutal improvisations revealed a much darker truth. Desperation turned soldiers into inventors and war into a laboratory of cruelty. Military tribunals after 1945 made it clear. Weapons that cause untreatable wounds, devices designed for mutilation, hidden traps intended primarily to maim, improvised toxins or illegal chemicals, and concealed implements of torture would no longer be tolerated in modern warfare. The world had seen what unregulated brutality looked like, and the post-war conventions were, really designed to prevent those horrors from becoming normal.